Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'm your host, Corey Dion Lewis. I'm super excited for our guest today, Mr. Bryan Buckley. Thank you so much for being here. I know, and we'll get into the conversation, but I know you got a lot going on in your life. So I'm I am I'm thankful for this time to for my audience to get to know you more and just talk about your health and wellness journey. So Bryan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So before we get into the conversation, can you tell the people a little bit more about yourself and what gets you up in the morning?
Hi, a little bit more about myself. So, professionally, Director of Health Equity Initiatives at the National Committee for Quality Assurance, and also an assistant professor at Georgetown School of Medicine. And I probably have a whole bunch of other things I do, but I think it all goes to what gets me up in the morning. And I always think about this question because it's been asked a couple of times, and I always revert back to my vision statement that I usually tell people, which is to exhaust my talents as a nexus for change through my blessings, failures, and community. And so, really, my whole entire why is how do we improve the health and well being of where people live, work, and play? And so, I think that's what gets me up in the any time during the day and throughout the busy schedule that I have.
Yeah, and that's such a great mission, and you do a lot with wanting to see how can you help other people see their best life and their healthiest life. Was was there ever a moment in your life where you had to have that come to Jesus? Like you had to reevaluate your own health. What did that look like?
Ooh, health. So I could answer that in so many ways because it depends on how we're defining health and its full atmosphere of
Yeah.
physical, mental, spiritual. But I'll start with the physical just because usually most people will think about that. I would say my first time coming to Jesus moment was probably when I was I hit 30 when it came to my health. That's the time that, I'd always been borderline high blood pressure. And that was one of the moments I was going through my doctorate program. And I just remember getting these stress headaches. And it was a moment where I was like, I need to change. And at the time, my blood pressure started getting higher. And I was like, I need to change my life. Like, so I was like, okay, I need to get better sleep. I need to start eating better. I need to start exercising more because what I was doing was not, sustainable. So
Right.
I think right when I hit 30 was when I was like, you know what? I'm waking up in the morning and, I'm feeling some pains that, just, I was like, I didn't even do anything. I was like, I should probably start taking better care of myself. I'm not healing and bouncing back as fast as I was in my 20s. So
Man, the bounce back is a lot slower these days.
it really is.
That bounce back, you start to appreciate that bounce back a little bit more as you get older. Like, man, 10
Yeah, I was
years
like,
ago.
I can't just go into an exercise. I was like, if I don't stretch, it's gonna hurt later. So I think when I came to 30, I don't know. I think every time you come to one of those monumental ages, it
Yeah.
makes you start reflecting hey, I still have a lot of life left. And what's your mission? As you said, your why. And I was like, I can't do my why if I'm not at my optimal, self. So if I can't bring my full self to my work, then, things are going to suffer. So that was I guess my coming to Jesus moment.
Yeah. And for me, it was one of those things as a health coach, almost how what I eat, what I do during the day is there's a microscope on it, especially within the community that I serve. I can't be seeing a diabetic and then go to the cafeteria and get the chicken tenders and the fries joint because they're going to be looking at that. It's almost like I gotta walk. I'm talking and I also gotta walk it. But you brought up a great point about you know there are so many aspects to health. There's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. But when you're thinking about health, what does that mean to you? Like, what are some of the things when you say I want to get healthier? What's the first aspect that comes to mind for you, or what are some of the things that you work on?
Yeah. So things I work on is I mean, I would say when it comes to my health, I look at it in the full spectrum of it. So, am I physically good? Am I mentally right there? Am I good spiritually with myself? Am I good there relationally with other people? Because I think there's that aspect of health as well. And so, I like to like think about like when do I feel the happiest and like most free. And I tell some of the folks that I coach too, like when you describe like what a perfect day looks like for you, like
Mhm.
that's like the sense of how I think about health. And so for me, a perfect day is hanging out with friends, chilling, vibing, having great conversation, not having a care in the world, not thinking about the next deadline I have to do, and just like being. And I'm like obsessed with the letter B. So, Brian Buckley, a little bit there. And so I always have like these I always talk about my B mindsets to like my wife and like to other friends, and I'm like, how can we just be, where you're just being with yourself and you're just like at peace. And I think that's how I view health. You're not stressing, you're not thinking about the next thing, and so
Yeah.
that's how I view like health as a holistic way.
No, that's so real. Also, the social aspect, social wellness is something I don't feel like we talk about a lot. It
No, and literally it happened. I think we started talking about it when COVID happened.
Yeah.
We were socially isolated, and I did a lot of work with a nursing home project, and that was a big thing in nursing homes where people in nursing homes felt disconnected because they couldn't visit their loved ones couldn't visit them, and that's like a very big thing. As human beings, we're very relational, social creatures, and so
Yeah.
having that lack of interaction definitely impacts your mental health and who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like community is so important. But you also have those people that feel like doing too much with other people is almost draining to their energy, like those your introverts. And like
Well, I
how do
mean,
you
I would push it. That there's
Ooh,
still
okay.
a relational thing. Like introverts, it's not like they don't like people or anything. It's how much people's energy can they like take on at a given time.
Yeah. How
Like
much people can they people?
exactly. Like I have the capacity to maybe like talk to five people and fully be engaged with them. But to be fair, if it goes beyond five, even I as an extrovert get a little tired where I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
a lot of energies to manage. My wife, which is more on the introvert side, she's cool with talking to people. She just likes one-on-one conversations, and it's
Right.
like we're good. And no matter who you are, introvert or extrovert, like there's always people in your life that like mean something to you that you want to interact with, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's that coworker that like makes you feel happy in the day. And so there's always a relational side. It just depends on how much you can handle at any one time.
Right. As an extrovert, did the pandemic how did that affect you? Or did you feel that not being able to get out and kick it and do what gives you energy?
Yeah, I mean, in the initial part, it did suffer, but at the time, I was also looking to be away from people. Let me paint the picture here for you. So it's 2020, pandemics happened. I had just defended my dissertation in April of the pandemic year. And I was at the time the president of the Harvard Graduate Council. So I was like overseeing all of Harvard at a time that a pandemic was.
Wow.
So I was like interacting with a lot of people. And so when all that like stopped, I had like a month where I was like, no new friends. I was like, I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm just trying to like catch up on my Netflix queue. Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to be by myself because I was always interacting with people. And then after we like moved back home to Maryland, or home for me, that's when I started emerging again. And then, although it wasn't the same as interacting with people in person, I found my way to interact with people via Zoom and Teams and other social connections. I actually made a list of people I hadn't talked to in a really long time. I made a concerted effort to just like reach out to like two or three of them each and every week. And so I kind of owned like, hey, we're isolated, but we still can communicate with each other and we can still be there for each other. I think some people definitely felt the effects of it. I like started to blossom because you could talk to people that often would not want to talk to you, but because they were lonely too,
Yeah.
they were more open to like talking with you. And I think my energy helped them because I get the
Right.
adage that my energy is contagious, and so I think there was also an excitement to like interact. And so I mean, I think I actually kind of thrived a little bit during the pandemic. I just had to shift my mindset and to what it meant to be relational in that moment.
Yeah. I will say, it really it put it in perspective for me. I I do really enjoy being with people to a certain extent. I love to network and do all that stuff. But there, if I'm being honest, there are times where I will just dip out without letting anybody know. Like I'm that guy. Like, okay, I've done my work. I'm let me slide out.
The most draining thing for me is conferences. I don't know if that's the same thing for you, man. After I leave a conference, my wife, she can see me the day before I'm about to go into a conference, and then the day like I leave, I'm just like I switch to being an introvert completely. Like, okay, my energy is completely drained.
Yes. Yeah, I need to reboot. I need to reboot. But the pandemic really, it just put it all in perspective because there was a lot going on, and it really made you think, hey, this I do enjoy community. Is just what you were saying earlier. Maybe I need to enjoy it within my own boundaries and framework, and not go out there and do too much and feel like I'm too drained, and then just being extra about it. Just being myself within a good group, getting energized, being with them that 4 to 5, 6, whatever, and then keeping it moving.
Yeah, that's true. And for
Yeah.
me, I
So
mean that like so fun not fun fact, but I'm also Caribbean American. And so
yes.
I was talking to a lot of family members via the phone for years. And so for me it didn't hurt as much because I reminded people, the people I mainly talk to and like I'm really cool with, I didn't have to see them all the time. I talked to them on the phone, and I just continued to do that during the whole entire pandemic. If anything, I just added more people to those conversations.
No, no, that's real. That's dope, man. You told me a story when we first spoke the couple weeks ago. I know you're on the American Heart Association board,
For yeah,
and yeah, where you're at, and you had a situation that really this has really prompted your volunteerism and your support of that organization. Can you talk about that and how that's affected you now?
yeah, that's also another coming to Jesus moment too. I just thought about that. That was in my Jesus year too. Short. I'll make it short, but like as we were talking about wellness, I got into cycling as a thing of active wellness, and in 2021, while I was riding my bike with a buddy, we saw a man collapse, and we had to call 911, and I had to perform CPR with a couple of other people in that were um, cycling by, and we actually thought this man died. Like I was doing CPR for like 20 minutes. I remember when he
Wow.
fell down, there was like these gasps of air. Like you could see him like struggling to breathe, but he wasn't like responding. You're shaking him and he's not like moving. He's just like trying. You can see he is focusing 100% on staying alive. And I remember the moment where his breath started getting slower, and then I remember the last breath he did where there was just this like exhale, and I saw his eyes glaze over, and I was like, okay, time
Ooh.
to do CPR. And I hadn't. I was a lifeguard back in the day, so I knew some part of CPR, but I didn't know like, I wasn't like I had did a re up, last year.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, it's been like 10 years since I've had to do this. And so I'm like, I asked anyone if they knew CPR, and there was this woman, and she's like, I kind of remember I did a class like 2 years. I was like, I'm gonna start, but I don't remember everything. Watch me and like kind of coach me to get me back, and I know it's gonna come back. And so once I started, she kind of gave me a little bit of thing, and then all of a sudden, muscle memory started coming back.
Mm,
I ended up doing
mm.
CPR for 20 minutes. I was training two other people because it's very tiring doing CPR.
Right.
And the police got there. They brought out the AED, and we thought the man died because they kind of like drove him away really quickly, and so we left just thinking he died. And then like a couple of days later, we got a call from a detective that said, "Hey, are you Bryan Buckley?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, the man you did CPR, he survived."
Wow.
Like changed my world. His name is Christopher, and him and I like we text like probably on a weekly basis now. We're like family. But he really put into perspective the importance of heart health and that a cardiac arrest could happen at any moment for any reason. And we saw this with Damar Hamlin, which I actually got to meet not too long ago because he's doing a lot of advocacy at Congress right now in partnership with the American Heart Association to pass a bill so that every school has an AED and is training students in CPR. And so it just became a big passion project. I came into the Heart Association on the board thinking in DC area, thinking, oh, I'm going to focus on my health equity stuff, my public health stuff. And then that happened like a month right into my boardship. And that
Wow.
became my main focus. Did interviews on the news, was the Open Your Heart story. It was a big thing, and so it really put into the idea of mind, body, and soul, which was the theme of that heart ball that I had gone to, and also how are we thinking about our health in a more global way.
Man, that is when you told me that story, man. It's like it's one thing to see it on TV, you know what I mean, and or to go through because at where I'm at, we got to get relicensed every 3 years, and it's one thing to do it on the dummy and to see the
Yo,
video.
it's so different when you do it with a real person. Like that one thing they say when you're doing CPR, you're supposed to like go like about an inch down into
Yeah,
where their rib cage, their sternum cracks. Like I felt that and felt like yeah, I was like, it's nothing you can prepare yourself for, but like you just go into autopilot, like follow your training.
yeah.
Like I was telling that to myself in my head, follow your training, follow your training.
Man, and so it sounds like it put everything in perspective. It put like life into perspective. It put your
Very much.
health into perspective, and it just made it more real for you.
It did. Like, when you see someone that you thought was about to die, it made you start really thinking about life is short. And I remember I
Yeah,
told you this is my Jesus year at the time. And I remember, I'm a very spiritual person, Christian. And I remember thinking going to my Jesus year, and everyone's like, what's a Jesus year? But, 33,
yep.
which is the year that, Christ died. And I was like, I remember praying before like my 33rd birthday. And I was like, God, let 33 be give me insight into my potential future self. That was the prayer
Mm.
I did. And I tell you, everything happened in the world at 33 between a new job, saving someone's life,
Man.
getting awards, buying a house, like everything just happened. And I like was like, it put perspective. I started my first, like, I had always said I wanted to start a business because one of the big things I had a passion for was coaching younger
Mm.
people in their career, started that. So it just like put in perspective, like life is short. So let's just start, doing it. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Just start.
Yeah, man. Apps just you just gotta go. You just gotta keep moving. So you got a business. You have a thriving career where you're trying to help people. I know I was exaggerating by being on 15 boards, but you are out here.
I'm not on 15 boards, but I'm on, I am on quite a lot of steering committees, advisory boards, and board directorships.
Yes, you're a professor, you know, which are all great things, man. And I just respect that you're doing all the I'm doing all that because that's what I want to do. And my question to you is, with all that going on, how do you maintain your mental health?
Mental health. So I guess the way I maintain my mental health, it's kind of multi-pronged. So one of the things I have like a whole phrase that my wife hears me say is work hard, play hard. And so like
Mm.
during the week, Monday through Friday, sometimes, you just have to make that grind happen and you don't have a life. But my weekends, I protect my weekends as much
Mm.
as possible. I try to spend time with family, friends, my wife. We have we come up we do date nights, like we have our whole thing hashtag forever dating, so spending time.
Mm.
I treasure sleep a lot. People always are like, "Oh, you're doing all these things." The first thing they say is, "When do you sleep?" And I'm like, "I sleep all the time." I like treasure trying to get 8 hours of sleep every night because
Right.
sleep for me is my way of recharging and my body healing itself. And once I'm awake, on the grind. But I treasure sleep, so making sure you get a lot of good sleep, that helps my mental health because like when I'm stressed about something, I like my wife hates it. I wake up happy every morning. I'm like one of those people, like no matter how upset I was the night before, I like wake up completely refreshed and I'm like, oh hi. So like we got into an argument and she's still upset about it. I'll wake up and be
Right.
like, oh, well, I've already forgiven you. We
What you
did
mad
it.
about?
What you mad about? And so I would say sleep and then also finding times to just like do things that make you happy. So I have like some guilty pleasures. Like I love watching movies and TV series. So like I'm a big horror movie fan person, and so like,
Okay.
I try to watch at least like one horror or thriller like once a week, just to like. It's when I'm watching movies, it's like the one time I'm like not thinking about anything. I'm like that kid that's at the movie
Yeah.
fully engaged. Like I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me no questions about the movie. I'm like fully there. And
Right.
so doing things like that helps my mental health and exercise. So cycling is one of the things I do. I love being out in nature and just like taking walks. I'm like trying to bring that back with some of my colleagues. Like when we have meetings, I'm like, we don't need to teams each other and see each other, our faces. I know what you look like. How
Yeah.
about we do a walking meeting? Like you get outside, I'll get outside, and let's just be on the phone and talking because I can communicate the same exact thing to you doing with.
Yeah.
So I say it's a multi-prong, but that's how I like think about my mental health in many ways. Just really looking at all those because if your physical health is suffering or if your social, it all they all are linked interdependencies with each other, and so I try to make sure that I'm doing something each time, even eating healthy. Like I'm pescatarian now, and so
Okay.
just eating healthy, trying to get more vegetables and fruits in my diet. That's like what I do to try to stay and maintain healthy. So my body's good, which helps my mind. And then just seeing like, I don't know, for me also what gives me a lot of great joy is when I see people like the self actualization of their own greatness, I think is also like a good thing.
Mm.
That's why I got into coaching. So like some of my coachees, and when I'm like pouring into somebody, and I see them like finally make the big steps, those moments, those ah moments, those give me like a lot of joy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you're achieving that as well with them. That gives you
Exactly.
that battery in your
I'm
back.
like their biggest fan out here, like, just cheerleading right there. So
Yeah, man. That's so dope. You know, with the work that you do is within the public health space and the coaching, how do those are those totally separate? Do you see like are there similarities with public health and your coaching, and how do you separate the two, or do you even have to?
I look at it as my being as a whole. So like one of my favorite quotes that my grandfather would always say is he's like, Brian, we're on this world for two reasons. One, to make the world a better place with whatever God given talents that we've been given. And two, to mentor and coach the next generation to build on that work. And so I look at it as kind of core to who I am. You had talked about that why before. That's like
Yeah.
part of my why. I said my community, and I look at the community of either public health practitioners because I would argue everyone does public health.
Yeah.
You're doing public health, everyone does public health. If your work impacts another person, you are doing public health, whether you realize it or not.
That's
And so
real.
my mission is really like, how can I empower other people to be great and make impacts in the world and be that nexus of change that they want to be? And I often, when I'm talking to students and like my coachees, I don't even say what are you trying to achieve? What's career now? I'm like, what problem do you want to solve in the world? Like, I think that's more important because it allows you to bring your full self and lived experience into the work versus just thinking about putting yourself in a box of a career. Like, what problem are you solving? Because we need creatives, we need people merging
Man,
new ways of thinking. And if you think of things as a career, like I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna do this, you limit yourself. And so I think that's how I view my contribution to the world as being someone that can inspire and uplift others in many ways and connect them to other people that are doing amazing, dope things.
yeah, man, that's a bar, and I really appreciate you saying that. For the longest time, Brian, I never considered myself a public health professional. I was like, I'm a health coach. I within the this preventative care, holistic view. I didn't consider myself a part of the a public health professional. I mean, obviously, with what I do has changed dramatically, but what I've noticed, especially within public health, is and I would love your input on this, but the lack of creativity in some areas. Like ain't a whole lot of stepping out the box that I have seen when it comes to public health initiatives. And I would love to hear your thoughts on, what if you agree with that, what you have seen, and what somebody who is a creative that wants to be in the field of public health or maybe already is, what should they do? What's that move look like?
Yeah. And so you're right. I think it depends on how we're looking at public health too. As I said, everyone's part of the public health movement. But often when we think about public health, we often think about governmental public health. And governmental public health is just sometimes very slow and not necessarily not meant to be by design, not meant to be too creative, because government is meant to somewhat be the stability of the country. And so when I think you think outside of that governmental public health side, I think there's a lot of opportunities to be creative. And often I always talk about my mantra. It's like my way of this is what I think every single day as we think about how do we empower. I told you I'm obsessed with the letter B here, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of be hungry, be curious, and be humble. Be hungry for the problem you want to solve because we need more people being angry that that problem still exists in society. Like, I don't need your, oh, this is a nice idea. I need like your anger a little bit. Why do we still have, high infant mortality for Black women or why or maternal child health issues? Why do we have still racist policies that have not been questioned whatsoever? Like, I need people to bring their energy fully to that. And then being curious, questioning the why thinking outside the box, but even questioning why did the box even get created? Like, and I don't think we always question. We assume that everything was
Yeah.
made very well. Like, let's question the box. Why was this box even created, and for who was it created for?
Yeah.
And then last is being humble in the sense that any type of major change you're trying to make in the world, and I always say public health is a team sport. Like, you cannot do it without other people. So you got to be humble to know that you contribute to this one area, but you're going to need to create your tribe that is also thinking about this and the same energy and bringing their energy to this work so we can actually make change happen in society, because it requires people being angry about something that's just not right and willing to be brave, pragmatically brave to want to change it.
Man, I almost want to say mic drop, but it's it's on. I can't drop it. It's stuck there.
It's too expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not dropping that, but it is so true, and it's almost like we've accepted the box because it's been there for so long that we're just used to it, and it's going to take somebody being angry. I love that, being angry, so passionate about something. You're angry and you're asking those questions. That's really, really good. Brian, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today. I really appreciate it. This was a dope episode. For anybody listening that wants to learn more about you, and and just connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. So if you just put Dr. Bryan with a Y, and I use my middle name a lot, my middle initial a lot, so O, Buckley, you will find me somewhere on all of the social media sites. But at least for Instagram, it's at Dr. Bryan O. Buckley.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Bryan O. Buckley, thank you again for being on this episode with me today. I really appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'll holler at you next time.